Very good evening, friends. Meeting again in the same session today. Yesterday, unfortunately, it was not recorded properly. And that's why I'm going to take the same session in today because the recording will remain over there in a sequence. And that's why I will going to repeat the yesterday's session. So, dear friends, we are discussing regarding the new chapter from the Stuart Close, that is Indisposition and Second Best Remedy. He has explained it in length about indispositions and varieties of indispositions which are caused because of exciting causes, maintaining causes, or also called to be a cause occasionalis. And he has mentioned taking into consideration the references from the sixth edition of Organon of Medicine related with the seventh aphorism and its footnote, and those he has added over there while explaining indisposition. An indisposition of a mild character never requires a remedy. That's what he has mentioned in the aphorism number 150 by Hahnemann. And in 151, he says that indisposition of a violent character always requires a remedy. So this is what we have learned. And many times, whenever such types of indispositions, the patient comes to us, what to do and how to go ahead, that question arises in our mind. Just giving advice is not sufficient for many patients because they expect a remedy from you. So how to tackle that and how to go ahead, that's what we have to learn. And that he has tried to explain while explaining certain things regarding the concept of disease also. So we were there on page number 136, the paragraph number 2. From there again we'll start with, in short, Hahnemann has done his best to make it clear that the use of common sense is not incompatible with homeopathic practice. His enemies and some of his overzealous followers, to the contrary, notwithstanding. So, common sense is always a sense which is required whether you do allopathy, whether you do homeopathy, whether you do anything in your life. And it also helps whenever you are doing homeopathic practice. You have to think and you have to go ahead. What he says, the young homeopathic doctor, fresh from the halls of Mater Medica, with his brand new case of medicines, is apt to be like a small boy with his first jackknife who wants to carve and whittle everything within his reach. A simile, by the way, quite as applicable to the young surgeon. Both of them leave a trail which to follow does not require sagacity of the Sherlock Holmes. Consider for few moments then that class of cases which require for their use only the correction of faulty habits and the removal of exciting causes. Consider also that it often requires the exhibition of as much wisdom, skill, good judgment, and tact to perform this function as it does to prescribe medicine. Indeed, it often requires more. It is much easier to deal out medicine and dismiss the patient than is to make a careful investigation of the habits and circumstances of the patient, who probably does not need medicine at all, but only wise and kindly advised on how to live. So this
Sir,
point is
sir, it is good to revise, sir, but we have finished this one.
already you have joined late. I have explained
Nari.
that yesterday recording was not done, and that's why we are revising it.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay.
So what he is explaining over there, that whenever you have to treat a cases which comes to you with indispositions, many times it happens that they never require medicine. Patient comes to you with some consuming some spicy diet with a severe burning in stomach, and that he is having it because he has consumed that. Many times, a simple measures in the diet, just asking him to take little bit cold milk is sufficient to settle the problem and there is nothing required. or he should not take any food, remain fast for half a day or one day, that will be sufficient. If the patient who is suffering from night watching again suffers from acid peptic trouble, it is better to have a rest and he should get a good sleep. Patient's problem will be settled. So many such things are there in day to day practice which are necessary to tackle, and for which he says that uh, it never requires medicine, but patient expects the remedy. So how to handle that? He says there are four important criteria which must homeopath must have. First is wisdom. That is more important. Wisdom is nothing but the intelligence. The second important thing, the skill to handle the cases, handle the patients, asking him details, going into the past, going into the histories, and to catch all those things. The third thing, that is the good judgment. You must judge whether the patient is having any habit, whether patient has consumed anything specific, whether patient comes to you with an hysterical condition, and there is quarrel at home, something has happened in the home, and that is the point of judgments, good judgment. And last very important thing is tact, to take out all those things from the patient. So these are very essential things which are necessary, which gives you idea that patient never requires medicine. Only what he requires is to change his mode of living, change his faulty diet, change his faulty regimen, and that is sufficient to tackle those cases. But patients are in need of medicine. So for that purpose, what he says, he goes little bit away from that. Great is power and value of homeopathic medicine, but like all other good things, it can be abused. Even high potencies can be abused, cause mischief. As I saw illustrated very strikingly when I was sent for haste to see the patient for whom I had prescribed a few days before. I relate a case because it not only illustrates the particular point I am discussing now, but also the subject of posology, which I shall take up subsequently. The patient was an old gentleman who was in a state of mild senile dementia with enfeebled power of thought, loss of memory, tendency to involuntary urination and defecation, rather persistent sleeplessness, and becoming careless in his personal habits. But he had been perfectly tractable and mild in his demeanor, and had made no trouble for his family. The symptoms led me to prescribe remedy which I gave in the 200 potency with direction to take 2 doses daily. 3 days later, I was sent for in haste to see him. I found him in a highly excited state of mind, with flushed face, widely dilated pupils, staring expression, and suspicion of being poisoned. He excitedly and harshly accused me of giving him another man's medicine, which had filed his bowels up, and he had removed all his clothes, refused to put them on again, and was going about the house nude before the women without shame, and had tried to go out of doors in that state. I recognized the symptoms immediately, as I hope you have done. Probably most of you will be able to name the remedy, and it was hyoscyamus. Of course. On making inquiries, I found that instead of taking the remedy twice a day as directed, owing to the misunderstanding, he had been taking it every 2 hours. Of course, he was making proving of 200 potency. A single dose of belladonna 200 removed the whole trouble in a few hours, and he resumed his ordinary placid course of life. So here he explains that if you give unnecessary medication or if you repeat in high potency, it can cause a trouble. He has given a simple illustration of a case how hyoscyamus 1M or repeated too much have produced the proving of hyoscyamus in that patient. Indispositions generally never requires medicine. If it requires in slight or very few doses. It never requires to repeat too much because patient is already in a high susceptible states. So he has made a caution while giving the medicines. If it is not needed, then you should not give the remedy. If it has been needed, consider whether to repeat or not to repeat. Further, he says, an experience of that kind has strong tendency to remove any skepticism one may have as to power of hypotension. It also conveys an impressive warning against too frequent repetition of doses. Moreover, it upsets the theory that hypotensive do not act upon agent. Incidentally, it shows the possibility, sometimes denied, of making provings with hypotentiated medicines and substantialities the claims of those who hold that no remedy can be considered as well proved until it has been proved in the potencies as well as in the crude form. It is well known that most valuable part of the drug action, the finer shadings of symptomatology, are almost never brought out under the use of tinctures and low potencies. These appear usually under the action of medium or high potency or toward the close of proving or of a low potency long after the first effects of drugs have passed away, so that it has come to a maxim among experienced provers that the last appearing symptoms in the proving are the most valuable and characteristic. In the same way, the last appearing symptoms in a disease, especially chronic disease, are of highest mark in selecting the remedy. A practical point it is well to be remembered. We should never neglect to inquire of patient whether any new symptoms have appeared since last visit or the prescription and value any such highly. So here he mentions that it is not that always that if you give the hypotency and it is not useful or it will cause aggravation. It's not so. Hypotensies are required even for the proving. You will get very specific, delicate characteristic symptoms under the action of hypotension. And hypotensies are necessary to tackle such types of problems in the patients which are all which for which the low potencies never help. So this is whenever you are thinking about the question of high potency, it is not always so they are harmful or they causes aggravation, etc. In proper hands and with proper repetition, they are always useful to the patients and they gives you exactly the specific reactions which you needed. So this part where he has explaining that high potencies you should not repeat too much unless and until it is needed, and it depends upon what remedy you are repeating. And now he returns again to the main point, that is returning to the subject of indisposition. Having discovered such a case and determined that it does not require medication, the question arises, how is such a case to be managed? So if a patient comes to you, you know that there is no need of medicine. And how will you explain to the patient that he never requires medicine? Because if you say blindly or directly that thing, he will consider that doctor have not understood medicine. So what he says, at first sight, it would seem to be a very simple matter, merely to tell the patient bluntly that he does not need medicine, but only to mend his life and correct his habits according to the advice and instructions which you have given or will give. This view of the matter does not take into consideration the peculiarities of human nature as formed by ages and generations of habits and customs. Only occasionally do we meet a patient to whom we can give ideal advice and treatment. In spite of the rapid growth of no drug idea as promulgated by various modern cults, the average patient who goes to the doctor expects to get medicine. And this is the thing. Patient comes to the doctor and he expects that he should get the medicine. That is the habit. There are many habits. Now there are habits that if they have a single symptom, they go to the medical store, ask for medicine and they consume before coming to you. For very small elements, they take the medicine. If there is a running nose, they go to the medical store and bring the medicine. If there is a headache, they go to the medical store and bring the medicine. There are many habits. If there is any skin eruption, they immediately goes to the medical store, finds it out what is the ointment and they applies it. And from these habits, if you want to take the patient out, it requires rather a big skill. If you tell them it is not needed, they will not agree. And for that purpose, what he says, in spite of the rapid growth of no drug no drug idea is promulgated by various modern cults, the average patient who goes to doctor expects to get medicine. If he is so far advanced in his ideas as to believe in the no drug theory, he will probably not go to doctor at all, but will seek out the osteopath or Christian Science healer. The patient who believes in drugs and goes to doctor for treatment very will be very likely to listen incredulously to your well meant advice and will depart to tell his friends in anything but respectful manner that he thought you were a doctor, but he found that you were only a half baked Christian scientist after all, or something to that effect, to direct his attention to his errors of living and order him to correct them is to apparently put the burden of cure upon him, and that is not what he wants at all. He expects us to bear that burden, and that is what he comes to us for. Besides that, he often resents the assertion that his trouble is due to his own ignorance and willfulness. And there is large class of people today, selfish, pleasure-seeking, luxury-loving, dissipating creatures, male and female, who demand of physician relief from pains and penalties of their hygienic sins, but are not willing to do their necessary part towards bringing this about. They want to eat their cake and have it too. So, in a beautiful language, he has explained that this is the tendency of human mind. They always expects a medicine from you. They never, they are not happy if you just give them advice. If you tell that if you manage your diet and regimen, your diabetes will be immediately settled and you will not require medicine. They are not happy. They think that unless and until I take medicine, it is not possible to get cure of diabetes. The thoughts are like that. And unless and until those thoughts you can remove from the patient's mind, it is not possible to handle the situation. So, what to do? The question arises. And then he says, for such types of cases, what you require is your second best remedy. And then he says, we cannot afford to antagonize this class either for their sakes or our own. We owe them a duty as well as ourselves, and few of us can afford to pick our patient. We must take them as they come and adjust ourselves to their individual needs and peculiarities. There is a general rule. There is, in general, are some of the cases which require tact in management. You can catch more flies with molasses than with vinegar. We can gradually lead some of these people into better ways of life and thought and cure them of both their sickness and their sins if we are patient and wise and tactful, while at the same time we are increasing the extent and influence of our practice. The physician who aims to be something more than a mere dispenser of palliatives, pills, or people will never lack the opportunities to magnify his profession and become a power of righteousness in his community, as well as a healer of its diseases. It is in dealing with such cases, the indispositions and habit disorders, that the second best remedy in the Mathematics so often comes into use. Of course, you all know what the second remedy is. No, I'm surprised that your education has been so neglected. But I'm glad it is to be my privilege to teach you something you do not know. There are so few things that the average young doctor does not know. So again, he beautifully explains the thing that in such types of cases, you have to be very tactful or very artistic. You can find it out exactly the cause, and you have to deal with that patient and without disturbing his psychology that he is not taking the medicine. He gives his second best remedy. And what is that remedy? Everyone knows is nothing but the sugar pills, placebo, without a medicine. And that is what is called as the second best remedy in homeopathy. You give the advice and tell him, yes, this is the medicine I am giving you. Take it 3 times a day and that will cure your problem. But if you don't follow whatever I advise, it will not going to work. If you say it with confidence, patient starts taking it at the same time, starts following the immediately starts following the advices and he recovers from it very nicely. And that's what he says over there. In order to fully appreciate the value of second best remedy, we must first clearly understand what is the best remedy in Mathematical. There cannot be any doubt in your minds as to that. I'm sure it is the indicated remedy. You also know that having once been found, the best remedy must be given time to act, and its action must not be interfered with by other drugs and influences until it has accomplished all of it of which it is capable. You are you also know, or if you do not know, you will learn if you keep your eyes open and your wits about you that you too many doses of the best remedy may spoil the case. And here he says that best remedy is always the indicated remedy, but second best remedy is not an indicated remedy. You should not go on repeating the medicine. You should not go on giving it in very frequently. But if your patient should feel that he is taking the medicine, then the second best remedy is always useful for you. And that second best remedy is nothing but the placebo, which he wants to highlight over there. And this, for the students, this is the topic for exam, second best remedy, 10 marks question. One of the distinguishing characteristics of the great painter is that he knows when to stop. See how beautifully he explained. One of the distinguishing characteristic of a great painter is that he knows when to stop. Many paintings which would have been great if the artist had known when to stop has been weakened and spoiled by overfinishing. In his anxiety to perfect a few insignificant details, he robs his work of its vitality, kills it. It is the same in treating the case. The problem is to give just enough medicine and not too much. Too many doses may spoil the case. I have referred to the class of people who expect and demand medicine and are not satisfied unless they get it until they have been taught better. So many patients expect medicine even though they are not required. And for homeopath, it is always better if he knows when to stop and how to stop. And in such tackling such patients, what is the solution is nothing but giving him a second best remedy. And that's what he says in the next paragraph. Now, just here comes in the second best remedy, without which no good homeopathist could long practice medicine. Its technical name is Sacrum lactis officinalis. Abbreviation is SACLAC or SL. Just a plain sugar of milk, the young homeopath's best friend, the old doctor's reliance, and very present help in the time of trouble. So this is the best solution. Many times you get that and you can tackle the case. Very easily you can settle such types of cases with the help of this. And we'll finish one more paragraph because that is important. The doctrine of placebo, from the Latin placier, to please, future placebo, I shall please, is as old as medicine itself. Its psychological value is commensurate with the realities and peculiarities of human nature. The traditional bread pill of our medical ancestors has given place in the march of scientific progress to the more elegant power of virginal, virginal white, pure sugar of milk, or to the seductive little vial of sugar pills or tablets artistically labeled and bestowed with impressive directions as to the exact number of pills for a dose and precise hours of taking with confident assurances of happy effects to be expected if directions are faithfully followed. And this is the most important thing. This is the only remedy which you, if you give with confidence to the patient, when you feel that he never requires medicine, give him a placebo, give him Seclac. Only thing is that add some dilute alcohol in order that patient feels that it is a medicine, and give him with confidence that he should take it 4 pills every 3 hourly, 4 pills every 4 hourly, 6 hourly, and tell him that this remedy will cure you within span of 8 days. And patient starts taking it and he feels that he is taking the medicine, but he is not taking the medicine, but his thought has changed and he gains very early recovery with the help of such a second best remedy. So we'll complete over here. Tomorrow we'll meet again with the next part of the chapter. Thank you being there, even though it is a repetition, but we have added many things in today's session. So it will be better to be there and you got the thing. Today evening we'll definitely meet with the new remedy from the fourth year syllabus. That is the sister concern of the first remedy, Abies canadensis. The new remedy is Abies nigra. Today we're going to learn it at 8:15 sharp. Be there to learn the practical aspect of it. Okay? Thank
Thank
you.
you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Thank you.